Welcome to the Post Shift Podcast, your raw look at the hospitality industry, brought to you by SHC.
What is happening, Post Shifters? Welcome back to another episode of the Post Shift Podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Shawn Soole. I am getting over a bit of a flu, so that's why I'm feeling a little nasally right now. Recently had a couple of young bartenders, I suppose, compliment me on my longevity in the industry. And fair enough, I'm in a management / partnership sort of set up now, but I was like thinking about this because I think a lot of bartenders get to an age of like 25, 30. And I think I've mentioned this a couple of times with the change in the industry where that meaty section, that late 20s to mid 30s section left during the pandemic. And I think there's a lot of young bartenders who are like getting to a point where they're like, what do I do next? And so I sort of want to do something from like what's behind the bar to beyond it. Like what's the thing that you can do to build yourself up and continue having a long career in this industry. So first up is building a personal brand. This one's pretty standard. How can you position yourself to get opportunities? It takes a lot of work. I'm going to preface this, but this takes a lot of work to have your own personal brand, to be posting regularly, to be doing these sort of things. It takes a hell of a lot of work. But you find your niche. Take me, for instance. My niche is mental health, training and education, cognac, I suppose, to a degree. But you don't really see me do like cocktail content because it's not who I am anymore. I'm not a cocktail bartender anymore. I don't bartend behind the bar at all regularly. So cocktail content doesn't fit my brand personally anymore. Do I love making cocktails still? Yes, I still develop in R&D cocktails and stuff, but it's just not something I love doing. So finding your niche is a really big, important thing. Like if you're just going to do cocktails as a cocktail bartender, it cannot stick on the wall. So have a think about what you want to do. Is it creating cocktails with Baiju, like what we're doing at Lawai like right now? Is that the niche you're going to sort of play with? Leverage your social media and your networking. This is where the hard work hits. If you listen to my episode last week, time management, sacrificing a ton to get to your goal is a very, very big thing. And so that's a pretty standard, like full-on thing. But it does take a lot. Like outside looking in, that's how it seems to a lot of people. They're like, oh, that's easy, but it's not. It's a ton of work. And invest in continuous learning. So I just finished my Canadian whiskey certification. So I'm still at 44 years old, still constantly learning and constantly getting more certifications, which builds on my niche of that training and staff retention sort of angle. Number 2, consulting. Consulting is a very easy track. I mentor a ton of bartenders on wanting to do that next step of consulting and sort of walk them through how I lay out my things. I give them my standardized contract so that they can use that with their clients. But there's some pitfalls. So underestimating the business side, that's the big thing. Creating a cocktail menu, that's the fun side of things, training, that sort of stuff. But like underestimating the business side of things, so you get paid for your time, is a really hard thing to sometimes measure, especially for hospitality people, because we're very, very passionate about what we do. We're not usually as heavily business-minded as we probably should be. Trying to do it all is another one. I talk about this with a lot of my bartender friends, called scope creep. This is something that when you take on a consulting project, the client all of a sudden goes, oh, but you could do the wine list, right? And you could do the beer list, right? And you could do the training, right? Really lay out exactly what your specializations are and your skill set is, and then make sure that that is all you do. Or if you want to be able to dabble in a few other things, HR, like accounting, that sort of thing, make sure that it's in your contract to cover yourself for scope creep. And then lack of proof of concept is another pitfall when you get into consulting. You really want to make sure that the client isn't just looking at a bar program you've done and gone, ooh, that's fun, that's successful, that's getting notoriety, I want that, without understanding that you need X amount of prep hours and X amount of dollars in equipment and X amount of dollars in prep. There's a whole bunch of things that come along there. So you've got to really be a good communicator. Number 3, which is usually the biggest one, is becoming a brand ambassador. So how do you become a successful brand ambassador? It's just not about being a fantastic bartender or anything like that. You really need to start looking at what is the brand you want to align yourself with. The big one is that if you don't align yourself personally with the brand, it will show. amount of people that I've seen become brand ambassadors for like 6 months and they've gone to become a brand ambassador for a vodka brand or something like that. And you know that they have very strong opinions that they don't like vodka. Like me doing a vodka cocktail competition would be laughable. But the thing is that working with those brands, you need to really love those brands. The perfect example of this is Dave Minton. Dave Minton was the champion of Canadian whiskey before he was Lot 40 Canadian whiskey brand ambassador. So that's what you sort of got to look at and figure out exactly what brand you want to align yourself with. You've got to be a storyteller. You've got to be an educator. You've got to be a mentor. You're not just a bartender who's going to go in, make drinks, get drunk, have shots, and then peace out. You need to be more than that. You really have to show that you are representative of the brand in a way that it goes outside of just being a bartender. And again, that professionalism and reliability. Your business is, your brand is directly attached to another brand, and that brand's professionalism is reflected on you. So make sure you do that. Entrepreneurship, opening bars, starting product lines, and creating content is another great one. Passion doesn't replace planning. Like, that's a really fucking fantastic little note there. Passion doesn't replace planning. You need to plan. I've helped a lot of bartenders out with business plans. They've got money from the banks, which is really, really tough for their first place. If you want a business plan, hit me up. I've got a business plan that I can send over to you. You can sort of look over. You got to understand the risks. I'm seeing another restaurant here in Victoria right now opening a new location, and they've overpaid for the room. Really paying high for the lease, and then the money that they're pitching to get supervisors and stuff in there's a lot of money. So like I'm looking at the figures, I'm trying to do the math, and I'm like, this is not going to work. So like, understanding the risks on having your own place is super important. And then also, if you're going to get into the entrepreneurship thing, diversify. Don't just do one thing. I don't just do consulting when I'm really deep in entrepreneurship. It's not about ownership of a venue. It's also about like maybe distribution. It's also about my podcast. It's also about training. Diversify your income streams. And number 5, of course, is, are you at your venue? Sorry, God, my voice is just gone. Are you at your venue and you've stopped and you've stunted? Are you not getting the same vibe that you used to get there and get that motivation to keep going? Because it's sometimes tough. For learning and growing, you really got to talk to your management. If your ownership and your management have a very open door policy, have a good chat with them and say, hey guys, I feel stunted. What can I do to do more within this corporate company so that I can stay and grow here in this company? I love being here, but I'm just feeling a little stilted. If you're a young bartender, please, if you feel stunted in a venue and you're just a bartender there, talk to them. If they're not, like, move around. The one thing that I hate in this industry is that everyone's, they jumped around a little bit. You're 21 years old. If you're 21, 22 years old, jump around, explore, enjoy some different venues, do a wine bar, do a cocktail bar. Explore, learn as much as you can. Like, you're young. You don't need to set up at 22 years old, 23 years old and be in a venue for 10 years. That's not necessary. If you're happy, they're great. But for me, it's like you can jump around and enjoy yourself. So those are the sort of 5 things you can do outside the industry. I hope that's given you a little bit of a point of view. The hospitality industry is just not being a server or a bartender or a manager or an owner. It's about growth. It's about experiencing new things. Things that I experienced 5 years ago are amazing now. And so the industry is just not rudimentary and one-dimensional. There's so many things you can do, so many facets you can take on just by what you've learned in the industry to expand. So on that note, guys, thanks as always for the week. Hopefully my voice comes back for next week. Chat to you soon.
Thanks for listening, Pose Shifters. Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode. I really enjoy sitting down with friends and peers and just chatting about the industry and getting down to the nuts and bolts of what's really going on out there. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, everything on all the platforms. Just hit it up and I'll do my best to answer any queries or questions you have. I'll see you next week, guys. Bye.